Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have an updated tier list for the Dragon Ball Super BT19 meta. The old tier list, which is above me right now, is pretty outdated. It came out way back in November, right before Dragon Ball Super Nats, before any BT19 had been released, any events were held on the game itself for BT19, before Dragon Ball Super Nats happened in North America, before a ban list happened, before we got some new promos to help some older leaders as well. So it's really outdated. So this is more of a new one going into the Zenkai Cups that we have later this month, and just kind of go from there. So in general, the way I do these is highly competitive, which I would expect it to win the majority, one of these leaders to win any given regionals. Competitive means I wouldn't be surprised if it got a top 16 and could get an occasional win there. Highly playable is just sometimes it gets a top, but I would be very surprised if it got a win. And then non-topping and unused BT19 leaders are just kind of just other leaders in general that I put on this tier list originally, but I can't get out, I can't delete them because Tier Maker doesn't let me delete leaders. So anyways, we added a couple new leaders to this too, and in general we're going to start off with the leaders that got some new support off the new Dash Pack promos back here in January, and just kind of go by color by then. So starting off, we have the spaceship leader, and I'm going to put this in like highly playable. It's okay for what it is. The biggest thing about this deck is that like we're getting to the point where unisons are getting a lot of removal targets, right? And so that can really hurt a lot of the chains. We're seeing a lot of decks are playing Black Smoke Dragon, especially blue as we're going to see is a very good color right now, and I think it just kind of puts it in its breaks, unfortunately. But I did like the original archetype for it, and it's really cool. It's a nice take on kind of like the red Saiyan archetype, and so I'm putting it highly playable. It hasn't done any tops as far as I know. It's a neat archetype, but it's never seen any play. Bojack is going to be kind of right there next to it. Unfortunately, we'll talk about it later. Like, he's a really cool card, and he got a lot of honestly great support, but it's just worse Beerus Reboot. Like, it's 9 times out of 10. It's just Beerus Reboot is just better than this deck. It's not as restrictive. You get more kind of flexibility in what you're doing, and you're trying to do the same thing. And Beerus just lets you draw cards easier, and you're not kind of working on like having to get the top deck meta into your energy and get the free +1s and like all the things. Like, maybe a really good Bojack player could be as good as Beerus Reboot, but I just think it's a worse version of it, and I don't think that's too controversial, but that's my opinion on that guy. Green Cooler, I'm gonna put him competitive. I don't know. I think he's neat. I think he's really neat. He did get a lot of support. We've had a couple events of BT19 after the Dash Pack promos have been out, and it could just honestly, for all of these leaders that got new support, it could just be a supply issue. I know a lot of players aren't having a good time getting these leaders, or the promos for these guys, so that could just be one of the reasons for it. But I think it's good. I mean, this isn't saying anything, but probably one of the better green leaders right now, which green hasn't been doing well in a really long time, to be honest. So, but I think it's fine. Again, it's a unison-based archetype, which means that Black Smoke Dragon can interact with it very poorly and hurt you there. Though I will say, like, we'll see this later too. The fact that Sin Shenron isn't as around as much either is a pretty big boon for this archetype too, because probably one of the biggest ways to kind of abuse the Vegeta Z battle card and all the unison destruction that it had. So I think that's a good point there. It's probably competitive. I need to see it more though. I don't know if people just aren't running it or if the promos are just really hard to get, but I have some hopes for it, but we'll kind of see it there. Next up, also it did super good at Oceania. Nats, it got second there, so that's, I think, worth being put up there too. So next up, we do have the Trunks and Vegeta leader. The support's really weird. I will say, like, it didn't necessarily need support, and I don't think the support from the archetype is good. I don't think people are running it, and I don't think honestly the Z leader is that great either. It just kind of like turns you off from what your deck's supposed to do and kind of just shifts you into doing something else, which is really weird. But I don't know. I haven't seen anyone with future Trunks and Vegeta decide, you know what, I'm going to play the new cards. Most of them are still just playing all the old cards. Actually, all of them. I haven't seen anyone play the new stuff yet. So I could just be wrong, but no one seems interested in it. No one seems to be using it. The deck itself is fine. It got a top finish in North American Nationals. It was the only leader, and there was only one. but it got top 4, so that's pretty good. And yellow is just in a really weird spot in general. It's strong, but like you have to be really particular with how you play it. And we'll come back to that a little bit later too. But I think the deck is still in an okay spot. It's been better in the meta previously, but it's just okay. Next up, we do have Supreme Kai Time. I think like this is like high competitive, like almost highly competitive. It's a really good deck when it goes off. It has, it's essentially a Vegix clone in my mind, where you are able to use like an Overwhelm deck where you get a lot of advantage from putting stuff in your drop area, your warp. You get to use advantage of it. You get to recur some stuff, and that's just the deck. We've seen this with Vegix for like literally last 3 years almost. Like it's crazy how much like that's the only identity that Black has for like a competitive deck more times than not. So. But yeah, Supreme Kai Time does it really well. Has a lot of good promos that work out specifically for this leader, which means they're hard to find, and I know people are looking for them for sure. But I think it's a good deck. I think if you want to play something like a new version of Vegix, I think this is a really good spot. Or obviously like Gogeta Xeno and that all stuff. Like it's just like the new package of that. But it works. It works very, very well when it goes off. So we're gonna put that there. And then lastly, the Majin leader. I'm gonna have to put this in highly playable as well. It's really cool support. It's really nice support, but it's not as aggressive as it used to be, at least compared to what other decks are doing. You don't get as much advantage as you could get. The deck can still go off. I'm not going to say that, but it's not very flexible, and we're in a meta where a lot of the good decks are in a very flexible spot. So because of that, it's a little bit rough for the deck itself, but it is nice to have a couple new cards to play with. It's nice just to have another Agents of Destruction card that's blue for some color combinations, which is cool, and yellow as well, because traditionally those cards were not very playable in the deck by and large. So being able to say, you know what, if I need to skew more yellow to kind of cheat some more cards that aren't in the archetype but I want to use, I think that's strong. But I don't know, it's still a fan favorite archetype for me there, but it's where it's at. So that's how I feel about the 6 leaders that got support in those promo packs. And then also real quick, I'm going to kind of take out a lot of the fluff and put them in the bottom 2 tiers. All right, and so here I put all the kind of fluff leaders that all the BT19 leaders. Like, man, none of these leaders were good. Like the best one I think is probably Gohan. It did get a top in the finals for Oceania, but man, like all of these, no one uses any of these. I'm putting Slug here because I put too much time and effort into testing this leader to say it's bad, but man, it's just kind of weird how just ungood all these BT19 leaders were before, especially like just after the set drops. And then after that, I just kind of had a bunch of wild picks for mine. None of these did anything. These are just kind of my wild picks. And some of these were decks that I was testing out myself, like especially like Frieza. I was testing with all the new support it got and everything, but I couldn't play Nationals because I was doing commentary. So that's the only reason this leader didn't top, was because I wouldn't even, that's a joke. That's a super duper joke. Anyways, we're going to go over the leaders that remain, and we're going to do it by colors. So we're going to start off with Vegito here, and I'm going to put Vegito in competitive here. I think it was like one of like the like weird picks going into the event. It did get a couple of tops in North American finals. Did it get any tops in? No, it doesn't look like it got any tops in Oceania. And Latin America, it got, I believe, 1. Yeah, it got 1 finish in. Oh, it got 1. It got 1 in each. So, like, it made some splashes in all of the finals. It got tops in each one of them. So, I think that's good enough for the deck. I think it's got a little bit better with the ban list, with God sealing away as well. So, I think it's a good deck, and it's solid. I haven't been seeing people playing it recently, but I don't think that makes it bad. Pan as well. I think I'm going to put that in competitive. It is in and I have all of these, my spreadsheets for all 3 of these events I'm talking about in the description as well, if you guys want to see these deck lists and see the data that I'm looking at. Pan got into North America and I think Oceania. Nope. It was only Tim. It was only Tim in North America. So it's probably fine. It's been getting some tops as well in recent Zenkai Cups too. So shout out to Jaden for that recent one. And it's fine. I've tested this out recently. It's not my play style, and that doesn't mean it's a bad deck, but man, it is a bad deck for me. If you see me with Reboot Pan, guess what? You probably won the game. Congratulations. So anyways, we have that there. We have Gogeta BR, which I'm going to put in highly playable. Got 1 finish in North America, and I don't think to get any finishes anywhere else. No. No, it did not. It did not get any finishes anywhere else. So it got one. I think it got. Did it get to top 16? No, no, it failed in top 32. So it has a gimmick. It has a gimmick combo. If you guys don't know about it, you probably do. You can get it Broly very easily, and it probably got a little bit better with God Sealing going away. And honestly, God Sealing is a make or break for a lot of decks, which is why it was banned. So, but I think that's there. Since Shenron, I think is better than Gogeta BR, but I also think that it's not. It's just out of favor. The fact that you don't get to do the crit anymore is pretty devastating for an aggressive deck like this, and it just means that a lot of these matches are a lot harder to get up to and get to. Obviously, Sin did really good in a lot of the nationals. I'm pretty sure it topped in all three. Yeah, it topped in all three. It was the most played deck in Latin America, and or at least topping deck, and it topped in every one of them. So it was a strong deck going into it. I'm not very surprised that they decided to make some actual changes. They did make some like preemptive red changes in general leading up to it, but I think it's still a strong deck. Don't get me wrong, and it's probably better than most green decks around, but I think it's not as great as it used to be, and that not having the possibility to do like a big double strike crit early game is a big kind of momentum breaker for something like this. I think it's kind of rough. So, and then SS4, Goku, and Vegeta, I think is probably, I'm going to say it again, I've said it before, I think it's probably still the best red deck that we have in the game right now. It's very strong in a lot of ways, and I think it's just in a very, very good spot. So I don't know what else to say about it. I think it topped every event. I would be very surprised if it didn't top one of them. Yep, and it topped all of them. It's still topping events now. It did get a little bit of a change, but the change obviously just makes it a little bit worse on the defense side, which is just, I honestly think it makes it a little bit more fair, not like unfair. So like it just means like you have to be really into the aggressive and momentum kind of thing, and it still does that very, very well. So I'm going to put that there. Next up, we're going to go to blue, which is probably a good chunk of this video because a lot of these decks are really good. I didn't put all of the blue leaders that topped either. I don't think I put Soul Striker. Soul Striker is probably good. It's probably still just worse Crimson, to be honest. And I also didn't put Dende Wish. Dende Wish could probably be up here in the competitive, highly playable. It's a really neat list. I just didn't put it on here. So, but Crimson, boom. Gamma, boom. Bears Reboot, boom. Aandroidd 16, boom. I don't think anyone's going to deny that these are four of the best leaders in the game right now, for a lot of reasons. And I'm just going to say it, I'm just going to name it right here. It's the blue tier. I think blue is just way better than every other color in the game right now. And it's very, very strong. And it's going to be obviously it got a hit with Senzu Bean, but man, it is still a very, very strong deck in a lot of ways. Crimson got eroded too to make it a little bit worse, not terribly worse, but a little bit worse, and it's still amazing. It's still winning events. It was it won every event. So North American, Andrew Duvall won with it. In Oceania, Robert Rizzi won with it, and in Latin America, Thomas Alvarez won with it. So it won all the things, and that was before it was errata, but the errata doesn't really honestly do too much to it. Beerus Reboot, I think, is very strong, and with it's just been getting stronger, honestly. It got a BT20, it got a top at Nationals. It's been topping recently at events too, and I think it's just a strong leader too. If you want to bump this down to competitive, you can, but this is my tier list, so he's going to be way up there. Gamma and Aandroidd 16. You could also put Aandroidd 21. Shout outs to Rohit and his amazing playstyle with Aandroidd 21, but I think that Gamma has strictly been good since topped every one of the three events we talked about. The same with Aandroidd 16. It got a top in North America thanks to pretty much Jared Lopez running that deck, but more people I think have been finally picking up Aandroidd 16 and finding success with it, especially with the recent Zenkai Cup as well. So I think the deck is just good. It's just a good deck too, and so all of these are good, and I don't think anyone's going to deny it. If you think there's something needs to be up here and highly competitive with these guys, let me know. I think the closest thing to it is probably the SS4 here, but I don't these just feel like on a different level, to be honest. So SS3 reboot, I think is good, but I think the other decks are better, and same with SS4 Vegeta. But still, these are probably still very viable decks against non-blue decks going into this. And 7 Ku, I'm going to put in highly playable. It's a really neat list, but again, the ramping from Beerus I think is strictly better. It's a very good deck, and it's sometimes unfair. So that's blue. I don't think that's too outrageous for me based on just my results and me playing the decks and everything. It just feels like blue is like in a league of its own right now. So anyways, talking about a league of its own, we've got green, and it's also it's the bottom league of its own. So we're going to talk about 4 leaders. We're going to start with Cell, which is it's probably like competitive. The only thing is that I like Cell. I like green. I like both these things, but it's been very uninspiring to see these decks do anything because it's been the same list for almost a year now. Since release, it's been pretty much the same list, and it's just not fun for me as a deck builder to try to innovate with new cards when it's just the same old deck. And I bet it wouldn't be interesting for you viewers for me to say, "Oh, do you want to see Cell again?" So I don't know. It's fine. It does do pressure. The fact like. Green can have the potential to be the best deck against blue with the potential of destruction effects as well as hand destruction, which is normally blue's weak spot, but not recently. Like even like this card, this Aandroidd 16 with destruction, you play from your energy, so you're fine. So I don't know. It's fine. It's been getting some tops. Did it get any tops in any of the events here? I got one in Latin America. Well, if we're talking about green, I think I said it was right, but Cooler also got a top at, it got second place in Latin America, or not Latin America, Oceania. And I think it has a really good spot in with the new tech. We're just waiting to see that. So this could actually be very viable too, but I have high hopes. Majin Vegeta was off my radar. It topped the event, the Zenkai Cup for PPG this last weekend. It has some really cool stuff. It looks like a really aggressive deck. So I think when the metagame's a little bit more slower, a little bit more value-based, this can kind of sneak in as a very aggressive deck too. Do I think it's better than Cell? Yeah, probably. And then Gotenks, I really like Gotenks. I'm really surprised we haven't been seeing more Gotenks with the new rebooted leader. I think all of it's good. I think all of it's very linear, and that might be the issue with it, but we did get a top in it with Andrew Klinger. In North America, we got a Latin America finish as well in top 16 with, let me get the name. The name of the player is Jerson Pizarro. And TAC, did we get any for the Oceania ones? No, we did not. So I don't know. I think it's a good leader. I like it, and I think it's again probably one of the best green leaders, which isn't saying a lot, but that's what it is. So, and then we have Kid Goku. I'm gonna put it like right here in like the middle. I think it's like the best yellow leader consistently right now. So maybe swap it out. Let's do like a little bit of this. Let's just do like that. Sure. None of this ordering doesn't super matter, but I think that it's just solid as a yellow deck. It gains a lot of value for what it is. I've been playing with it recently, and I've been liking it. I think it's slightly better than Trunks and Vegeta, but maybe that's wrong. But it's for what we have for yellow decks, it's probably one of the better ones. Oh, I didn't talk about Green Piccolo. It's there. There he is. We found out where he spots, but it's fine. And then we also have Turtles, which I love this deck. I really do. But man, when you give like Universal Union Destruction, a deck that really needs your Unison, you know that the deck's not going to be really, really good. So he's over here. I want to play him more, but I can't. So that's that. And then lastly, we're going to have one more black leader. It's going to be Vegex. I think Vegex is fine. If Supreme Kai of Time can do well, it probably means that Vegex, even though it's been neutered like 7 times, can also do well. I think Supreme Kai of Time is probably better, but Vegex does have some cool stuff that it's been doing for a very long time and can continue doing. So, but I don't think Vegex got any top. Did it get any tops in anything? That might be a little outrageous for me to say. Yeah, let's put it in highly playable. Bam, I did it. My tier list of Vegex to the top. I think Supreme Kai of Time is still better. We'll see if that's true. So. That is my tier list though. It's been a long rambly time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, for people who just skip to the end, I think blue's really good right now. I don't think that's outrageous for me to say. And if you think that's outrageous, let me know in the comments, but I think these are best leaders. If I was to say best two, it's probably Gamma and Crimson. These two can probably go down to competitive, but I think they're great for what they are. Beerus just being for ramping stuff, and Aandroidd 16 is really great, especially if your name is Jared Lopez. What else? Yeah, I think green's just in a bad spot overall. I don't think that's outrageous. Yellow has like 2 tricks. It's either, and they're pretty much the same trick. Like it's just play barrier blockers and hope it all works out. Red, a lot of it got neutered, but I think like if I was to put another deck up here, it'd probably be SS4. But I'm not going to do that. This is my tier list, baby. I think the deck's good, but not as good as what blue's doing right now. And that is it. Again, if you don't see your favorite leader on here, it's probably highly playable or lower. Sorry to have to tell you that, but I think these are the leaders that have been doing something good in the last 2 months, and we'll have to see if they do well at the February Zenkai Cups that we have coming up. So that's going to be it for me. Let me know what you guys think about this video. I really do appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you all next time.